I never thought my own family would be the ones to stab me in the back. When my tech startup crashed and burned, taking $200,000 with it, I needed them more than ever. Instead, my brother David convinced my parents I was losing my mind. They tried to take my company away from me. They cut me off completely, left me with nothing but a cheap studio apartment and a broken dream. But what they did not know was that I was about to rebuild myself into something they could never touch. Before I get into how my own blood left me for dead, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to have your back, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what I am about to tell you is not just about revenge. It is about discovering that sometimes losing everything is exactly what you need to find out who you truly are. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. Growing up in Denver, Colorado, my brother David and I were as different as two people could be. Our father, Richard, owned a successful accounting firm downtown. He was the kind of man who valued stability over everything else. Numbers never lied. Spreadsheets never disappointed. David followed that path perfectly. He studied accounting at Colorado State, became a certified public accountant, and joined our father's firm by the time he was 25. Everything about David was by the book. Predictable. Safe. I was the opposite. I studied computer science at the University of Colorado Boulder because I believed technology could change lives. While David was learning tax codes, I was learning to build software that could help people. At 28, I started my own company called BrightPath Solutions. My vision was simple but powerful. I wanted to create educational software for underprivileged schools. Kids in low-income districts deserve the same quality tools as wealthy suburban schools. I poured everything I had into making that happen. My father never understood it. Every Sunday dinner at their house in the suburbs became a battlefield. David would talk about his latest client acquisitions, the new certifications he earned, how the firm was expanding. My father would beam with pride. Then the conversation would turn to me. How was BrightPath doing? Was I making money yet? When would I get a real job? My mother Susan would try to smooth things over, change the subject, keep the peace. But I could see the doubt in my father's eyes every single time. The only person who believed in me was my girlfriend Amanda. She had been with me since college. She understood the late nights, the financial struggles, the passion that drove me forward. At least I thought she understood. Then everything fell apart at once. BrightPath's major product launch failed catastrophically. We had spent 18 months developing educational software for middle schools. 3 school districts had signed contracts worth nearly $500,000 combined. The launch date arrived. Within 48 hours, we discovered critical bugs in the core system. The software crashed repeatedly. Teachers could not access lesson plans. Student data was not saving properly. It was a disaster. The school districts canceled their contracts immediately. My investors pulled out. I had borrowed $50,000 from my parents to help fund the final development phase. Now that money was gone. $200,000 of total investment evaporated in less than a month. I was 32 years old and I had just watched my dream die in front of me. The panic attack started around 3 a.m. most nights. I would wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, unable to breathe. The weight of failure crushed down on my chest like concrete. I stopped sleeping more than 3 or 4 hours a night. Lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks because I forgot to eat. My apartment became a prison of empty coffee cups and crumpled papers filled with desperate restructuring plans. That was when Amanda left. She sat me down one Thursday evening and said she could not handle the stress anymore. She needed stability. She needed someone who had their life together. I was not that person anymore. She packed her things that same night. I watched her car pull away from my building and felt something inside me break even deeper than the business failure had broken me. This was my darkest hour. I had lost my company, my savings, my girlfriend, and my sense of self all within the span of 6 weeks. But I still had one thing left. I still had my family. Or so I thought. I called my mother the next morning. My voice cracked when I told her I needed to talk. She sounded sympathetic, warm, like she had always been when I was hurt as a child. She invited me to dinner that Sunday, said we would figure things out together. I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe they would help me see a path forward. Maybe having their support would give me the strength to rebuild. I arrived at my parents' house that Sunday evening trying to hold myself together. My hands shook slightly as I rang the doorbell. My mother answered with a hug that felt genuine. My father nodded from his armchair in the living room. And David was there too, which surprised me. He usually spent Sundays with his wife Sarah. We sat down for dinner. Pot roast mashed potatoes, green beans, the same meal my mother had made for Sunday dinners my entire childhood. I tried to explain what had happened with BrightPath. I told them about the software bugs, the canceled contracts, the devastating financial losses, but I also told them my plan. I could restructure the company. I could find new investors who understood that failure was part of innovation. I could fix the software bugs. I just needed time and support. My father barely touched his food. His expression was stone cold. When I finished talking, he said 5 words that cut through me like ice. I told you this would fail. I felt my face flush, started to respond, but then David spoke up. His voice was quiet, concerned, brotherly. He said I seemed erratic lately, that my decision-making had been poor. He brought up Amanda leaving as proof that something was wrong with me, not just with the business. He suggested maybe I was not in the right headspace to be running a company. My mother looked worried now. My father's expression hardened even more. David kept going. He offered to help manage the situation, said he could take a look at BrightPath's finances, see what could be salvaged. He made it sound like he was trying to help me. I defended myself. Told them I was stressed, yes, but not incapable. The business failure did not mean I was falling apart. But then David pulled out printed copies of emails. Emails I had sent him over the past month. Private messages where I had vented about my struggles, my fears, my darkest thoughts during sleepless nights. He had saved them all, and now he was using them against me. He read portions out loud, made me sound unhinged, took my moments of vulnerability, and weaponized them. My father listened, with his jaw clenched. My mother reached across the table and touched my hand. "Honey, we are just worried about you." But I could see it in her eyes. The doubt had taken root. David had planted it perfectly. My father finally spoke. "Maybe David is right. You need to take a break. Step away from the business for a while." My voice shook when I responded. I told them I had already lost everything else. I was not going to lose my company, too. BrightPath was still mine. I would rebuild it. I just needed them to believe in me. The dinner ended badly. I left feeling more alone than when I had arrived. But I did not realize yet just how deep David's betrayal would go. 2 weeks passed. I was working from my apartment trying to salvage relationships with former investors, reaching out to developers who might help fix the software bugs. Then my business partner Marcus called me. His voice sounded cautious, careful. He asked if I was okay. Really okay. I asked what he meant. Marcus explained that my brother David had contacted him, had told him I was having a mental health crisis, that I was making irrational decisions, that the people who cared about me were concerned for my safety and the safety of the business. Marcus wanted to know if any of that was true. My blood went cold. I realized exactly what David was doing. He was not trying to help me. He was systematically destroying my credibility with everyone connected to BrightPath. I told Marcus the truth, that I was stressed but functional, that David was interfering in something that was not his business. Marcus seemed relieved but also uncertain. The damage was done. The seed of doubt was planted. I drove to David's office in downtown Denver that same afternoon, confronted him in the lobby. He was calm, almost amused. He told me he was helping me, that I was not thinking clearly. I demanded he stop contacting my business partners. He smiled that infuriating smile and pulled out his phone. Showed me a text message from our mother. It said, "Please keep an eye on Jackson. We are so worried about him." David looked at me with false sympathy. "Mom and Dad asked me to step in. They think you need help." I felt trapped, betrayed from every direction. I tried calling my mother that evening. She answered but sounded distant. When I asked why she had texted David, she said she thought he could help me in ways she could not. That maybe having someone with business sense looking at my situation would be good for me. She did not understand she was enabling his manipulation. Over the next 2 weeks, I learned the full scope of David's plan. He had been researching BrightPath's technology assets. He wanted to acquire the educational software at a fraction of its value once I was forced to dissolve the company. Then he would rebrand it under his own consulting business. He had been planning this since the moment my product launch failed. My crisis was his opportunity. 1 month after that first terrible dinner, I received a text from my mother. Simple and direct. "Family meeting Sunday. Please come. We love you." I should have known better. I should have seen it coming. But some part of me still hoped my family would choose me over David's lies. I was wrong. I walked into my parents' living room that Sunday to find everyone waiting. My mother and father on the couch. David and his wife Sarah in chairs by the window. Even my Aunt Helen was there, sitting stiffly by the fireplace. The coffee table was covered in printed documents. My stomach dropped. It was an intervention. They had prepared evidence against me. Screenshots of my stressed social media posts from the past 2 months. Photos where I looked tired and worn down. Text messages taken out of context. David had built an entire case painting me as someone in denial, someone self-destructing, someone who needed to be saved from himself. My father spoke first. His voice was formal, rehearsed. "Jackson, we have decided you need professional help. We are asking you to sign over temporary control of BrightPath to David, just until you get better and can think clearly again." The room spun. I looked at each of their faces. My mother was crying but nodding along with everything my father said. David sat there with the perfect expression of concerned brotherly love. Sarah avoided my eyes. Aunt Helen stared at her hands. I could barely form words. This is my company. I built it from nothing. I am not giving it to anyone. My father's face turned red. His voice rose. "Then you are on your own. We cannot watch you destroy yourself. If you will not accept our help, we cannot support you anymore." My mother added through tears, "Please, Jackson, just let David help you. He knows what he is doing." I looked at David. He said quietly, almost sadly, "I am sorry, Jackson. I tried." The performance was absolutely perfect. I stood up. My whole body was shaking with rage and heartbreak combined. "You are going to regret this." My father shot back. "Do not threaten us." "It is not a threat," I said. "It is a promise." I walked out of that house and did not look back. I sat in my car outside for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what had just happened. The people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had just chosen to believe the worst about me. They had tried to take away the one thing I had left, and they had done it while telling themselves they were helping. That was the moment everything became clear. I was not crazy. I was not unstable. I was betrayed. And betrayal of this magnitude demanded a response. The following weeks were the hardest of my entire life. My parents cut off all contact. My father canceled the credit card he had given me years ago for emergencies. My mother stopped answering my calls. David spread his poison through our extended family and their social circle. People I had known my whole life started avoiding me at grocery stores. Former family friends believed I was troubled, falling apart. I lost potential investors for BrightPath because rumors about my mental state reached the Denver tech community. Nobody wanted to risk money on someone who supposedly could not handle pressure. I had to move out of my decent apartment into a cheap studio in a rough neighborhood near Federal Boulevard. The building smelled like mildew and cigarette smoke. My neighbors fought loudly at 2 a.m., most nights. I worked at a coffee shop every morning starting at 5 a.m. Made lattes for people on their way to real jobs. Spent afternoons doing freelance coding work for whoever would hire me. Worked at a bar 3 nights a week serving drinks and cleaning up after last call. Every spare moment went into fixing BrightPath software. I rewrote the entire core system line by line. Fixed every bug. Made it better than it had ever been. I ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches for weeks at a time. Walked everywhere because I could not afford gas. Some nights I sat on the floor of my empty studio apartment and wondered if David was right. If maybe I actually was losing my mind. If all of this suffering was proof that I should have just given up. But then I would remember the intervention, the look on David's face, the way my parents had abandoned me so easily, and I would get angry all over again. That anger became fuel. One night, sitting in the dark with my laptop glowing in front of me, I had a moment of absolute clarity. I was not going to let them win. I was not going to prove their narrative right by falling apart. I was going to rebuild myself into something they could never touch. Not for revenge. For me. To prove to myself that I was exactly who I always believed I could be. I reached out to an old friend from college named Tyler. He had moved to San Francisco and worked for an education nonprofit. I told him everything. The failed launch, the family betrayal, the months of struggle. And then I showed him the new software. The version I had spent 3 months perfecting while working 3 jobs and surviving on nothing. Tyler believed in me. He introduced me to investors on the West Coast who had never heard the Denver rumors. I prepared a presentation that was raw and honest. I showed them the failure. I showed them what I had learned from it. I showed them the refined product that was better because of that failure. I did not hide my struggles. I owned them. The investors saw something in me that my own family had not. They saw resilience. They saw authenticity. They saw someone who refused to quit even when the entire world told him he should. 3 of them pooled together and offered me $300,000 in funding. There was one condition. I had to relocate to San Francisco for a fresh start. Away from the toxic environment in Denver. Away from the people who had tried to destroy me, I agreed without hesitation. I packed everything I owned into my beat-up Honda Civic and drove west. I did not tell my family I was leaving. They had made their choice. Now, I was making mine. 6 months after moving to San Francisco, BrightPath 2.0 launched successfully. The new educational software was everything the original version should have been. I had incorporated adaptive learning algorithms that personalized education for each student. The interface was clean, intuitive, easy for teachers to use. And most importantly, it worked flawlessly. 3 school districts in California signed contracts in the first 2 months. The software did exactly what I had promised it would do. Teachers loved it. Students' test scores improved. Parents saw real results. BrightPath started generating actual revenue for the first time in its existence. I hired a small team of talented developers who believed in the mission. We worked out of a modest office space in the Mission District. Everyone on the team knew my story. They knew about the failure, the betrayal, the comeback. It created a culture of resilience and authenticity that made us stronger. 9 months after the relaunch, we got our major breakthrough. The California State Department of Education reached out. They wanted to pilot BrightPath across 20 districts statewide. If the pilot succeeded, they would consider implementing it across the entire state system. The contract was worth multiple millions of dollars. We crushed the pilot program. Student engagement increased by 30% across participating schools. Teacher satisfaction surveys came back overwhelmingly positive. The state signed a full implementation contract. Suddenly, BrightPath's valuation skyrocketed. The company I had built in a studio apartment while eating ramen was now worth millions. Tech publications started featuring my story. Articles appeared with headlines like, "From Failure to Fortune, How One Founder Turned Disaster into Innovation." The pieces mentioned that I had overcome personal struggles and lack of family support. I never trashed my family publicly. I simply stated facts. I stayed professional, focused on the work. Let my success speak louder than any words could. 1 year after leaving Denver, BrightPath was valued at $12 million. I had paid back every investor with returns that made them very happy. I had a team of 15 people who trusted me completely. I had an apartment in Pacific Heights with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. I had started seeing a therapist who helped me process the trauma of betrayal and abandonment. I had healthy routines, good friends, and a life that felt genuinely stable for the first time since the crash. The success was real. Earned through the most brutal hard work I had ever done. Built on a foundation of pain that had been transformed into purpose. I was no longer the broken man my family had tried to control. I was someone entirely new. Someone stronger. That was when the messages started. First from my mother. A text that said, "I saw an article about your company. We are so proud of you." I stared at those words for a long time. So proud of you. Where was that pride when I needed it? Where was it during the intervention I did not respond? Then, my father called. Left a voicemail. "Son, we should talk. I know we have not spoken in a while, but family is important. Call me back." I listened to the voicemail 3 times. The audacity was breathtaking. Now that I had succeeded, now that I had proven them wrong, suddenly family was important again. Aunt Helen sent me a Facebook message congratulating me. Cousins I had not heard from in years started commenting on my posts. They all acted like nothing had happened. Like they had not participated in my exile. Finally, David called. His message was the worst of all. "Brother, I know things got complicated between us, but at the end of the day, family is family. We should put the past behind us. Let me know when you are in Denver. We should grab dinner." I sat in my office listening to that voicemail. The sheer nerve of it stunned me. He had tried to steal my company. He had poisoned my family against me. He had spread lies that nearly destroyed my reputation permanently. And now he wanted to grab dinner and put the past behind us. I had a choice to make. I could ignore them all, block their numbers, move forward, and never look back. Or I could face them one final time, give myself the closure I deserved. 2 weeks later, my parents showed up at my San Francisco office. My receptionist called my desk line. "There are people here claiming to be your parents." My heart rate spiked. I took 3 deep breaths. This was my moment. I told the receptionist to send them to the conference room. I would be there in 5 minutes. I walked into the conference room to find them sitting uncomfortably in the modern chairs. They looked older than I remembered. My mother's hair had more gray. My father's shoulders seemed more hunched. They stood when I entered. My mother moved toward me with open arms. I stepped back. She froze. My father extended his hand for a handshake. I looked at it but did not take it. I sat down across the table from them and asked the only question that mattered. "Why are you here?" My mother's voice cracked. "We made a mistake, Jackson. We are so sorry." My father cleared his throat. "We were worried about you. David convinced us that you needed help. We thought we were doing the right thing." I cut him off. "Do not blame David. You made your choice. Both of you made the choice to believe him over me. You tried to take away my company. You cut me off completely. You abandoned me when I needed you most." Tears streamed down my mother's face. "We thought we were helping you. We thought you were falling apart." "No," I said firmly. "David wanted my company. He wanted to profit from my failure. And you enabled him because it was easier than believing in me." My father tried a different approach. His voice softened. "You are still our son. That has not changed." I felt the old anger rising in my chest, but alongside it was something else. Something that felt like freedom. "I am not angry anymore," I said, and I realized it was true. "I am grateful." They both looked confused. "You showed me that I do not need validation from people who refuse to believe in me, even if those people are family. You taught me that real strength comes from within, not from approval or support or love that has conditions attached." My mother reached across the table. "Can we make this right? Can you forgive us?" I paused, considered the question seriously. "I do not know. Time will tell. But you cannot just show up now that I am successful and pretend none of it happened. If you want a relationship with me, you have to earn it. The same way I had to earn everything else in my life without your help." They nodded slowly. The reality of what they had done seemed to finally sink in. They stayed for another 20 minutes. We talked about the business. They asked careful questions. I gave careful answers. It was not warm. It was not a reunion. It was 2 people confronting the consequences of their choices. When they left, I sat alone in the conference room for a long time. I expected to feel triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I just felt at peace. Their approval or lack of it did not define me anymore. Their presence or absence did not control my happiness. David never came to see me personally. But I heard through mutual connections that his attempt to build a competing educational software product had failed miserably. His consulting business struggled to stay afloat. The irony was not lost on me. He had tried to profit from my failure and ended up creating his own. My parents were disappointed in him too. They finally saw the manipulation for what it was. Too late to undo the damage, but at least they saw it. David sent me an email 6 months later. A brief apology filled mostly with excuses and justifications. I read it once and deleted it. I did not need his apology. His failure was not my victory. My success was my victory. Over the next year, I slowly rebuilt a relationship with my mother. We talked on the phone every few weeks. She came to visit San Francisco twice. I set clear boundaries, kept her at a comfortable distance. She respected that. My father and I spoke occasionally. Brief conversations about surface-level topics. The warmth would probably never return, and I accepted that. I learned that forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means releasing the power that the hurt has over you. It means choosing peace over bitterness. I forgave them for myself, not for them. I found a new definition of family during those years. My team at BrightPath became the people I trusted most. They showed up every day. They celebrated wins with me and worked through problems beside me. Family is not just about blood. It is about who stands with you when everything falls apart. I started dating again. Met a woman named Elena, who taught 5th grade at a school using BrightPath software. She knew my whole story before our first date. She appreciated my resilience, my honesty about the hard times. We built something real together because it was based on truth, not illusion. My life became fuller and richer than it ever was before the crash. Not despite the betrayal, but in many ways because of it. The darkest hour had revealed who people really were. Some abandoned me. Some tried to profit from my pain. But I survived it. And surviving it made me unbreakable. I learned that success built from nothing is sweeter than any inherited privilege. That the opinions of people who do not believe in you are ultimately irrelevant. That real family is chosen, not assigned. That your lowest point can become the foundation for your greatest achievement if you refuse to let it destroy you. Sometimes the best response to betrayal is not revenge. It is building a life so fulfilling, so authentic, so strong, that the betrayal becomes just a chapter in your story rather than the ending. My family thought they were abandoning me. They did not realize they were setting me free. Now, I want to ask you something. When everything fell apart in your life, who stayed? Who stood beside you when the world said you were finished? Drop your answer in the comments below. Your story matters. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that comeback is always possible. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your darkest hour does not define you. How you rise from it does. Take care of yourselves out there. You are stronger than you know.